Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Universe Mode Retrospect of Classpar. On the last episode, we covered the entire span of his NXT career. In this episode, though, we will be backtracking a little bit to cover his early struggles in the main roster as he began shifting off the gold brand. This will cover from his Royal Rumble Season 1 debut all the way to his first WrestleMania appearance of Universe Mode. With all that said, let's get into Chapter 2 of the story of Classpar. As stated previously, Classpar would win the Hardcore Championship from RVD on Season 1, Episode 43. In Universe Mode, the Hardcore Championship tends to be defended on all brands, though as of now, it's mostly phased out of NXT, but still shows up from time to time. For an NXT talent in the early days, it would allow them to make appearances on the main roster. This would include Classpar defending his title on his first main roster pay-per-view on episode 45 of the Royal Rumble, defeating Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. A little bit of trivia for you. Later in the same show, he would appear in the Royal Rumble, where he'd be eliminated by Shinsuke Nakamura in the final two. He'd go on to defend his Hardcore Championship on Raw before losing it on SmackDown Live, episode 47 to Braun Strowman. After that, Classpar would return to NXT, where he'd secure the NXT Championship to close out Season 1. That covers stuff that we explained in the first episode. Now it's time to get into the full roster run on the main roster for his first full season of Season 2. Instead of spending time on NXT, though, after winning the championship, Classpar would waste no time in Season 2, appearing on the main roster. As on Episode 1 of Raw, he would team up with Kevin Owens and Connor the Ascension to battle old rivals DJRC, Davis King, and another man emerging from NXT, Adrian Galerto. Claspar's team would emerge victorious, though by DQ. Regardless, it was clear that the rivalry between Classpar and the men who took the NXT Tag Team titles from him wasn't over. Classpar would return to NXT, where he would face off against Ross Young, and then defend his title in a time limit draw on Nathaniel at NXT TakeOver Episode 8. Following those appearances, on NXT, he would return back to Raw on Episode 10, participating in a 6-man battle royal to become the number 1 contender for the WWE Championship. Unfortunately for him, he was eliminated in the final two. He wasn't done in his quest to achieve success on the main roster, though, as he would be selected, along with DJRC, to represent NXT in the Money in the Bank ladder match, where again, he'd come up short. Not one to take repeated failures lightly, he would be back on Raw in another 6-man battle royal, but would again be eliminated in the final two, missing out on a shot at the United States Championship. After the loss, Classpar would return to NXT, where he'd lose the NXT Championship to Nathaniel on episode 17. Despite the losses piling up and a betrayal in the ranks of his NXT faction about to happen, one event would change Claspar's trajectory for the better. On Season 2, Episode 18, the show Battleground would take place, which was a Raw exclusive pay-per-view. On the show, DJRC and Davis King would not only challenge for the Raw Tag Team titles, but would win the belts. However, after the match, Classpar would attack Davis King from behind, and sending a message that their rivalry wasn't done, as his disdain for DJRC's rise to success had reached a boiling point. This attack would result in DJ and Davis requesting a 2-on-1 handicap match against Classpar in the next episode on Raw. Unfortunately for Classpar, he was outnumbered and would lose the match. However, he'd find an unlikely ally in this new chapter of his rivalry that same night. To better explain the involvement of this other character, it's important to understand the story of DJRC and Davis King. DJ had Davis under his manipulation, which had never sat well with Davis's older brother, Matt King. Now, with both on the same brand, Matt felt that he was losing his brother, and felt the best course of action was to get physical. Classpar and Matt King will be booked into a tag team match against DJ and Davis at SummerSlam on episode 22. The unlikely duo hadn't crossed paths before, and it led to speculation on who would come out on top. This match wasn't one to ride home talking about, but the significance still stands for Classpar's career.
Matt King, send him up! Here it comes! GTS! Cover!
With this victory, the tag team known as Mad Class was born on that night. Though I didn't know it at the time, fate would tie these two to the hip in the series for the many seasons to come. When asked about teaming with Matt King on that episode, the creator of Classpar Panda would have this to say. I thought me being in a tag team with Matt King helped me, even as a heel. It was a little cool, odd couple group that definitely wasn't supposed to last. But it ended up getting over. Being paired up with one of the most over-call babyfaces helped my credibility, though. The reign would be short-lived, as following the NXT loss to Sheamus, Mad Class would also lose the Raw Tag Team titles to American Alpha on episode 27. However, the duo wasn't finished yet, as Matt King challenged DJRC to a match the next Raw. If he won, Classpar would get to fight DJ one-on-one, and Matt King would get to face his brother. If Matt could also beat Davis, DJ would have to release Davis that same night.
He's got him up on his shoulders! Wait! GTS, wait! He's stealing DJRC's own move! Got him! Oh my gosh! Cover for the win! To get the match! 1, 2, 3, yes!
At Hell in a Cell, episode 31, Classpar would main event the show with DJRC to finish the battle since NXT. It was a physical encounter between the two, but Classpar would walk away the victor of the match by making DJRC submit to what he calls the Classy Crab. For Classpar, despite losing the Horsemen of Class, the story between Mad Class and Evil did wonders in bolstering Classpar's value and was the perfect example. And the perfect example of this was on the horizon. Mad Class parted ways as a team, but Classpar wasted no time to enter into another Battle Royal on episode 32, and this time emerged victorious to earn a shot for the United States Championship at Survivor Series. Classpar would square off against Goldberg at that show.
Goldberg countered! Goldberg! Send him up! He's looking for it! Jackhammer! Connecting! No, wait! Classpar! Counters! From behind! Here we go! Classpar! Countered it! Side bomb into the side of the head! He's got Goldberg! He's got Goldberg! Picking him up a second time! Going for it again! Side bomb again! Oh, Goldberg! For the title! To win the title! To win the United States title! 1, 2, 3, yes! He got him! He got him! He got him! He got him!
Classpar attacked Goldberg before the match and would win the belt in just 5 minutes. For him, as the new United States champion, this was his chance to prove his value as a single star. Seeing that his underhanded tactics had worked, he'd use it on the upcoming NXT talent Kevin Draco to dispatch him easily. His next title defense was on the following Raw, where he would finally cross paths with Matt King in the ring. Matt King was in the middle of a rivalry with The Rock, but accepted Classpar's open challenge. One small note to make is that Classpar didn't attack Matt King from behind, like the previous two opponents. In my mind, this was arguably one of the best matches in Claspar's career, and is worth checking out yourselves. Season 2, episode 41, if you do choose to view it. For me, This match further bolstered the image of Classpar to new heights. There is spoilers ahead, but when asked about the match, Panda had this to say as well. Going into it, I thought for sure I was looking up at the lights in a quick match. What happened was a back and forth battle that had, in my opinion, the most realistic pace for a Universe Mode match, past or present. I thought the outline for the match was fantastic, the counters were surreal, and the moves that were usually never performed were executed to major applause. I still feel like I never topped that match, no matter what anyone has told me. In the end, Classpar would walk out the winner of a highly contested match. He'd head on to the Royal Rumble, where he'd defend the belt against Yuri Yamashita in a 15-minute Iron Man match. It was a decent match in terms of quality, but Yuri Yamashita would secure the title and end Classpar's reign. Unfortunately for Classpar, he would free fall after this moment. Classpar would enter his second straight Royal Rumble match at number 24. Coincidentally, right before Matt King, who came out at number 25. And unfortunately, Classpar was eliminated in just 2.5 minutes. Despite a tag team victory on the following Raw, Classpar would enter the Elimination Chamber to compete in his first ever world title match. Take note of this. Within the chamber, Classpar would tragically be eliminated in just a few moments to a standard bulldog maneuver by Matt King. These losses would come to a peak at WrestleMania II, where Classpar faced off against Yuri Yamashita and Davis King in his first ever Mania match on the grandest stage. For Classpar, this match was in hopes of turning things around for the better, but it would be so much worse.
Yuri lifting him up for the second time. Snake Eyes. Classpar setting up Davis King, but Davis King rolling him up. He's rolling him up for the title. 1, 2. Davis King is reversed. No, Davis kicked out. Away Classpar dropping him down. Yuri targets the arm of Classpar. Lifting him up. No. Classpar targets the leg. Lifted up Yuri, but Yuri countered. Back and forth neck breaker right there. Cover. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Yuri retained.
When asked about the match in Mania II in Universe Mode, Panda had this to say. Going into it, I needed a win for 2 major reasons. Firstly, I was on a losing streak since I lost the US title. But more importantly, at the Chamber, I lost in about 2 minutes to a standard bulldog, and it destroyed all my momentum. At Mania, I really felt that I needed a win, or at least something big. That didn't happen. Instead, the match lasted about 5 minutes, and I lost to a random neck breaker. Reversal. At that point, after I took that loss, I was thinking I might as well put on some clown makeup because I look like a damn joke out here. I was thinking that was it for me, and that I would stay a mid-carder for the rest of my career. I don't think I could have looked any worse out there. The match, in my opinion, would go down as Classpar's worst WrestleMania match on paper. What had become a fairly promising young career came crashing down around the young star. The question left now was, how would Classpar recover after such an embarrassing loss at the grandest stage of them all? Tune in next time to find out.